Good evening and welcome to the Township of Woolwich Council meeting on this November 9th, 2021. Before I begin, I'll remind Council that this portion of the meeting is being recorded and live streamed to YouTube. I'll start with roll call for the benefit of those watching this meeting. I'm Mayor Shantz. I'm present and chairing this meeting. Councillor Martin. Present. Councillor McMillan.
Present.
Councillor Merlihan.
I'm present.
Councillor Redekop.
Present.
And Councillor Shantz.
Present.
Thank you. Motion that council reconvenes in open session. Moved by Councillor McMillan, seconded by Councillor Redekop. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. The land on which we meet has been here from time immemorial. People have inhabited southern Ontario for about 10,000 years, and we acknowledge the Attawandaron, Anishinaabe, and Haudenosaunee peoples who lived here when the settlers arrived and who share this land with us. May we together learn to care for and respect each other, our flora and fauna, and the land we inhabit together. As we take this week to remember the many people who fought for our freedom and for the democracy that we do our best to uphold. These were men and women, boys and girls, really. They were Indigenous, African, Caribbean, South Asian, Asian, European. In short, they were Canadian. And each year we wear the poppy to support our legions and to help us remember. 2021 marks the 100th year of the poppy symbol in Canada. And I want to share a couple of facts about the poppy that you may or may not know. Most of us know the poppy was immortalized in the poem written by Medical Officer Lieutenant Colonel John McCrae in 1915 in Flanders Fields. You might not know that the poppy grew on the battlefields because of the lime scattered around from the bombardments. There were fields of poppies across Europe until the lime was used up and the poppies died out. I think there's a message embedded in there somewhere. In Greek and Roman culture, the poppy was used in funerals to represent eternal sleep. And in Egypt, poppies were found in King Tutankhamun's tomb, and that would have been around 1324 BC. I've been asked whether poppies should be worn on the left or right side, and the answer is the left side to be close to the heart. And finally, the poppy that I wear is a special commemorative poppy for the 100th anniversary of remembrance of the Remembrance Poppy in Canada. And I'm going to read a little card that was attached to it from the Legion. Inspired by John McCrae's In Flanders Fields, Madame Anna Guerin, later christened the Poppy Lady from France, campaigned tirelessly in the early 1920s for her inter-allied Poppy Day idea to adopt the distribution of the poppy on Armistice Day as a way to raise money for veterans' needs and to remember those who had given their lives during the First World War. After meeting with her July 5th, 1921, the Great War Veterans Association, which in 1925 would unify with other veteran groups to form the Canadian Legion, adopted the poppy as the flower of remembrance. To celebrate this 100th anniversary, the Royal Canadian Legion has produced this commemorative poppy, a pin reminiscent of the first poppies distributed in Canada after the First World War. So today I want to acknowledge Canadians of all descents, Indigenous, African, Caribbean, South Asian, Asian, European, and the sacrifices they and their families have made so that we can live here in a free country. And let's remember that we are all in this place together, however we came to be here, whatever our history, whatever our religion. I believe we have a choice to live together peacefully and support each other, or to create conflict and pain in our own brokenness. I know that sounds simplistic, and we won't try to unpack it here because it is anything but simple. I do hope we can choose to live peaceably. Let's take a moment of silence. Thank you. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, there are no items to come forward from closed session. We have minutes from October 19th and committee of the whole from November 2nd. Can I have a motion that they be adopted as presented? Moved by Councillor McMillan, seconded by Councillor Martin. I think I saw a hand. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. There is no public meeting, but before we get to presentations, I want to do two things. First, I'm going to embarrass Alex and say happy birthday. I'm not going to sing. And I'd like to introduce our new Director of Development Services, Deanne Fries. Deanne comes to us from Cambridge with a number of years working there as a manager of planning. And I don't know, David, if you want to add anything to that introduction.
Sure. Just to say that we're very pleased to have Deanne join us, and perhaps Deanne, you can put on your video. We're very pleased to have Deanne join us, join the team and join the senior management team as well. We certainly are looking forward to all of our years of experience, both in the area of development planning and also policy planning, and even experience with respect to overseeing development engineering, all key components of development services. And so just a great big welcome to Deanne.
Welcome, Deanne. I won't put you on the spot and ask if you want to say anything, but I'm sure we'll have a report from you soon enough, unless there is something you'd like to say.
No, just happy to be here and observe this first council meeting that I'm going to be at for Woolwich.
Okay, great to have you. Okay, we'll move on to presentations then. And our first one is going to be introduced by Ann Roberts. And it's the Township of Woolwich Environmental Enhancement Committee, and it was a presentation to Art Woods. And Ann, I'm going to let you give us a little background on that.
Good evening, Mayor Shantz, members of council, staff, and Woolwich residents. My name is Ann Roberts. I provide staff support to the Township of Woolwich Environmental Enhancement Committee, otherwise known as Hvac. Several years ago, Hvac members initiated the Community Award in recognition of environmental stewardship, also known as CARES. The CARES Award was designed to recognize a business, group, or individual for undertaking an environmental project that primarily serves the residents of Woolwich. This year, Hvac members have chosen to honor Art Woods with the CARES Award for his many years of leadership in trail development and tree planting in Woolwich Township. Art has been a trailblazer in Woolwich since the early 1980s, long before public trails became a staple item in our community. Art was a visionary man who tapped his fellow Lions members on the shoulders and encouraged them to take on the development of the Lions Ring Trail near Floridale, followed by the Kissing Bridge Trailway, and more recently, the Lions Ring Trail in Elmira. Art used the same approach with tree planting to work with fellow Lions to develop the Lions Memorial Forest in Elmira. A few weeks ago, Susan Bryant, chair of Hvac, presented Art with the CARES Award. The Lions Memorial Forest in Elmira was chosen as the venue for the presentation. You are invited to watch the video that follows of the award presentation as we celebrate and thank Art for his outstanding leadership and vision for the Woolwich community.
Okay. Very good.
Greetings to Woolwich Council and members of the community. It's October 25th, a rainy day, and representatives of Hvac, Mayor Shantz, are here on the Kissing Bridge Trail in Elmira with Art Woods and members of the Lions Club to honor the trailblazing vision of Art Woods in Woolwich. We want to honor his work establishing and maintaining trails and do it in person rather than on a Zoom council meeting. So here we are sending you a video of the occasion. Every so often, Hvac recognizes businesses, individuals, or other entities who are outstanding stewards of the environment in Woolwich with our CARES Award. CARES stands for Community Award in Recognition of Environmental Stewardship. This is the first time we've given the award to an individual, and Art is the person who certainly deserves it. Art Woods has advocated for developing walking and biking trails in Woolwich since the 1980s, so for 40-some years. In those early years, trails were not really a thing or a priority, but Art persisted in his vision. Anyone who knows Art knows that he persists. Thankfully, he convinced the Lions Club and the Township to add the brawn and brain to make trails in Woolwich happen, and so it has. Today, in what we hope is the tail end of the pandemic, the whole community recognizes the gift of these trails that perhaps seemed a whim in the 1980s. The trails in Woolwich have become absolutely essential. They're thronged with people seeking exercise, seeking and finding the calming, health-giving peace of time in nature, and taking advantage of precious opportunities to socialize with friends and family outside safely. Maybe Art didn't consciously anticipate the pandemic and how essential all of these trails would be to the community, but he has good instincts. Thank you, Art, for all you have given to this community. We are so happy to give you this award at this moment.
Says many thanks to Art Woods for his decades of trailblazing in Woolwich Township. The Lions Lake Trail in Floridale, the Lions Ring Ring Trail, the Kissing Bridge Trail, and this memorial forest were all created and maintained by Lions Club volunteers. A special thanks to members of the Elmira Lions Club. It's easy for an old guy like me to have dreams and ideas, but it takes these members to Good.
So the plaque is going to go on a big rock somewhere on the trail, and Art is bringing that rock. He has a special rock that is on or was on the farm in Winterburn where he was born and raised. He told me that there is a kind of indentation in the rock, and the local lore suggests that that was used by the First Nations people, the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe people on whose territory we stand. So Art is the current carrier on of the original trailblazing in Woolwich Township, which is, I think, a lovely thing.
Right, guys, we're going to move that rock.
Thank you, Anne, for bringing that to us, and our thanks to Art for his community leadership. He's a respected leader nationally and internationally with the Lions Club, and we thank him for his foresight in setting and maintaining trails as a leader of the Lions. Okay. There are no delegations, but I do have an item of unfinished business. On October 19th, the Coalition of Muslim Women in Kitchener presented to us, and they left us with a number of recommendations. And I think we left the meeting, excuse me, saying we would take them into consideration as we make future decisions. But I wanted to ask staff to come back to us with suggestions of how we might implement any or all of the suggestions that they made, what that would look like in Woolwich. So I can't make a motion from the chair. I don't know, do we need a motion for that, or is that just direction to staff if council's amenable? Direction? Okay. Staff good with that? Council good with that? Yeah, thumbs up. Excellent. Okay, thanks. So we'll look for that sometime in the next month or after Christmas. After Christmas? Okay. Christmas is coming quickly, you know. We have a number of items on the consent agenda. Recommendations from November 2nd, Committee of the Whole, and along with a number of other items that you can see under item number 11. Can I have a mover and a seconder for the list, or would someone like to pull something and discuss it further? Uh-oh, we're frozen. Okay. Move by Councillor Martin. I think we're frozen. That's the problem. Okay, seconded by Councillor Merlihan. All those in favor? Okay, thanks. Sorry about that little glitch. Okay, moving on to staff reports and memos. We have a communication tower at 29 Parkside Drive, and I'll call on Jeremy Vink, Manager of Planning. Welcome, Jeremy.
Madam Mayor, members of council. This is for a communication tower, a 30-meter high communication tower on the property of 29 Parkside Drive, which is owned by Township. They're proposing the lot portion where there's a tree section, or that's where the Lions does have memorial plantings there. So they're going to move that to the west and keeping it to the back of the parking lot, but away from those trees so they aren't damaged. There was one letter of concern brought in, and these issues have been addressed. Proposed tower and allow to, yes, ma'am.
Jeremy, so sorry, you're cutting in and out. I wonder if you, not that we don't like to see you, but maybe if you turn your video off, we'll be able to hear you better.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay. So as noted, their concerns have been addressed by the relocation of it, and some of the other questions have been answered by the applicant. Staff is recommending that council approve the location of the tower at the rear of 29 Parkside. If there's any questions, staff can answer them.
Okay, thank you. Are there questions? Councillor Redicott? Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry, through you, Madam Mayor, to Jeremy. Thank you very much for the report, and thank you for listening to the community and for the developer also to make sure that as many people as possible had their voices heard. So I think it's a very good report, and I would be in favor of it.
Are you moving it, Fred?
Sure, I would move the report. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Shantz. Any further discussion? All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Okay, the second item on the agenda is budget issues paper, and it's a 2022 climate action and greening infrastructure reserve fund report. So I think staff here are just looking for a little bit of discussion from us, and I'll ask Thomas Vanderhoff, Manager of Operations and Projects, to introduce it to us.
Good evening, Council. Through you, Mayor Sean. So staff have before you this evening an issues paper on the proposed projects for 2022 utilizing the Climate Action and Greening Infrastructure Reserve funding. So in 2021, Council upped their commitments, introducing another $100,000 for a total of 193 dedicated annually to reducing our greenhouse gas emissions and offsetting our carbon footprints. So the projects proposed in the report cover a wide scope of work, from capital projects such as heat pump installations to various greening efforts, and some commitment to our green team as well, to our township green team. Council will notice funding support for some consulting services, as well as a proposed shared position with the 4 townships that is still being ironed out as well too, and that's in collaboration with Sustainable Waterloo Region. So staff want to highlight, I guess, the importance of these items, these last 2 items, and the need for some support to offset capacity, and also provide some expertise on the topics and what projects we should be pushing forward. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions Council may have on the paper, and welcome any discussion. Yeah, we appreciate your input before we bring the items before the 2022 capital budget.
Thank you. Questions, Council? Councillor Shantz.
Thank you. Through you to Thomas. I have a couple of questions. I'll start with the solar panels in Heidelberg. And if you can explain that initiative a little bit. Are we putting energy back into the grid? And why did we pick Heidelberg for that location, or for that project, and not another location?
Yeah, for sure. Through you, Mayor Sean. So staff reviewed a number of our facilities, the admin building, the Breslau Community Center, and then some of the smaller community centers in 2020 with a solar panel contractor, not a consultant, just a contractor that we had a connection through. Heidelberg kind of stood out as a good, first option. It is smaller for sure, but it does have a steel roof that is south facing as well too, which is best, and lots of room in the electrical room. There was consideration for some of the other buildings, but provided the budget that we have annually as well too, picking a smaller project to start does provide room for some of the other initiatives that we have highlighted as well.
So if I could follow up, are we putting energy back into the grid then through that location? Because that community center isn't used a lot, is it?
Yeah, sorry. So the quote that we received in 2020 was around just over $30,000 at that time, and that was purely to power the facility only, not putting anything back to the grid. Yeah, hydro at that building ranges between $2,500 and $3,000 annually only.
Go ahead.
Okay, and so what is the payback on that, or what's the rationale of not picking another building that would get more payback?
Yeah, I think so. So what was proposed was, to meet the demand of the building. So if we were to scale that up, right, we'd just be dealing with greater upfront capital expenses. Yeah, we're 10 years for a payback on that at minimum. It kind of goes with, obviously there's significant costs with some of these capital projects up front, and it does take quite a while to realize that return. But
okay, and if I could follow up with another question, the LED lighting retrofits, have we not done some of these buildings already, or are we just done part of them?
Yeah, through you, Mayor. So we've had, it seems we have LED retrofits on the capital budget every single year, probably for the last 5 years. We, believe it or not, we still don't have the WMC done. We need to do the community center room as well as the track. We have not done any work at Breslaw, and the admin building, the majority of it was done last year, except for council chambers in the basement, I believe. So yeah, just kind of working through those, and like to focus. We don't have numbers quite yet. We're awaiting quotes, hopefully to have them by the end of the week. So we're not sure exactly what we can accomplish with that funding, but those are 3 buildings that we would like to focus on, probably WMC admin as a priority, and then the Breslaw Community Center.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Councillor McMillan?
Thank you, Mayor Shantz. Through you, is the selection process for projects based strictly on carbon reduction, or is there some like proof of concept here? There's a couple of projects that are listed for 2022 for LED lighting, and I think we've had pretty good success with LED light exchange programs, both on the buyback time, the payback time, and the energy offset. But on a solar project, is there some proof of concept, like where we're trying a small project upfront, knowing that we might be able to scale that up and in the future have larger projects, or is it strictly this is a larger carbon offset than LED lighting?
Yeah, so through you, Mayor Shantz. So looking at the carbon offset, I mean, that is something we consider. We also consider, operating projects that have kind of been built into what we do as a township. So boulevard tree planting in the parks, support for tweaks, support for the green team, that sort of thing. And then when we go through those operating items, it's, what are we left with at the end? So that's what we consider. We also consider, what do staff, feel comfortable with from an expertise perspective? What do we think we can accomplish within a year? That's something we consider. Hydro is not really truly, from a greenhouse gas reduction perspective, your best bang for your buck. What we need to focus on as a township is converting our fleet over to electric and natural gas. Natural gas and fuel are our highest greenhouse gas emissions throughout the township. So, we do need to transition our fleet over to electric as we go. You'll see that we have a bylaw hybrid vehicle in there. As those vehicles come out, that's something that we need to incorporate into our procurement process for fleet. And then the other big one is the HVAC heat pump installation. So we have 5-ton rooftop units on the majority of our facilities throughout the township. I think we have 7 on the admin building, for example. And historically, heat pumps would never work in a climate of ours due to the winters being too cold. But the systems that they have in place now are still tied into natural gas, so that they can rely on that heat in the colder months. So that is a direct swap for our standard rooftop units that we have been installing for 20, 30 years now. So we're hoping to transition. This will be a first year for us to install two heat pumps. And that's going to have a significant impact on the greenhouse gas emissions for those facilities.
Follow Mayor Shantz, thank you. Thank you for that answer. So my question, I guess, would be, in 2022, we have $50,000 budgeted for another bylaw hybrid vehicle. Would the carbon reduction be greater if we did that vehicle purchase in 2021 for the same $50,000 and bumped the solar panel installation? I think you mentioned that electricity isn't a great carbon offset. Here in Ontario, we do have pretty clean energy from a carbon emission standpoint with nuclear and with hydro. So would we be better off from a strictly carbon reduction standpoint doing that hybrid vehicle this year and then seeing what would be better in 2022 with that $50,000?
Yeah, through you, Mayor Shantz. So we have noted the bylaw vehicle as a proposed other corporate capital project. And the reason that it's listed under that heading is because And Mr. Petherick can jump in if he would like to after, if he needs to add anything to this, but we budget for our vehicles from the day that we purchase them. So bylaw is due for a replacement in 2022. So those funds are already there. And that's why the expense is not coming from the greening infrastructure. We did look at, other vehicles for them. However, they are just the nature of their work. They're dealing with some cleanup, that sort of thing. And they felt that a small pickup truck would be ideal for their operations moving forward. And as we look at vehicles, as I had mentioned, we would really like to start to shift our focus to purely electric pickup trucks, that sort of thing, especially for our CS department, some of the other departments that, can get away with those vehicles. The pricing isn't quite out yet, but I think we're looking in the range of $60,000 to $70,000 for an electric F-150, which will be one of the only, electric pickup trucks that's available. So there is significant expense there. We would like to transition the fleet. With that, as you can imagine, there are some challenges with regards to charging infrastructure. Where do we charge the vehicles? So all things that we're trying to, consider as we put this together, what makes sense. And you will have noticed as well too, that the public EV charging stations have been pushed off a year. We felt that, $130,000 for a charging station or two charging stations probably was not the best bang for the buck this go around. And that's a longer term project that we need to consider. Maybe with repaving of a parking lot, this public parking lot in St. Jacobs or that sort of thing, start to incorporate some of that infrastructure into those projects.
Thank you.
Councillor Martin.
Boy, help me with something. Sometimes I think we're just spending a lot of money because we have it, whether it makes sense or not. Let's go back to Heidelberg. You said there's no electricity going back in the grid. It's to maintain the building there, which is about $3,000 a year. And you said the payback is 10 years. Well, 10 times 3 at 30,000 and we're spending 50. It's a lot closer to 20 years payback to get for the investment we've got. Am I correct or what did I miss?
That's through you, Mayor Sean. So our quote came back in early 2020 at around 30. So we anticipate, roughly 35, let's say. So yeah, it's definitely somewhere in the middle there of, closer to quick math, 13, 14 years, something along those lines.
Councillor Martin, something else? No.
I guess to that, I'd really question, does that even make sense? But that's in my opinion.
Mr. Vanderhoff.
Through you, Mayor Sean. So as I mentioned earlier too, what we have in this budget is some consulting dollars. And we would like to spend that and try and, have a consultant go through a few of our facilities to say, this is where you can save money. This is where, you're going to have the most bang for your buck for reducing your greenhouse gas emissions by doing this. So, there is opportunity there. We wanted to hold this discussion so that council can, ask questions and share the direction that you'd like to go us in or for us to go in. But yeah.
So go ahead, Councillor Merlihan.
Thank you, Mayor Shantz, through you to Thomas. Thomas, when the green levy was added to the township budget line, it was kind of set up the same way that the infrastructure levy was set up, where the money raised through the extra tax was specifically for projects and not to pay for staffing in those areas. It's a reason that it's easy to sell to the public from my standpoint for infrastructure and for the greening initiative, that the money isn't getting chewed up by staff and consultants. While I understand that we don't have the expertise on in-house, and we do need to look outside to get consultants or people to tell us, what's going to be the best. I'd like to see that money come out of the regular operating budget and not out of this fund. And the money that's in the fund brought in specifically for greening projects, that they stay within the greening projects. I'm kind of on the Heidelberg end of things. I would like to see some solar projects start in the township, but I'd also like them to not have a 20-year payoff or whatever. And I guess with Heidelberg, if there's a way to store that energy, if there was some generators or backup units, or potentially use for lighting, or like the outdoor lighting, baseball lighting, if that's something that needs, but some other uses. It just, out of all the project, that's a pretty small building to bother with. But anyway, can we, getting back to the consultant business, can we get that, can we move that out of the this budget and into operating?
Through your Merchant. So I guess if that is, I guess I need to highlight that, as a department, there is definitely a need for the expertise there. It is, these types of projects are no different from a generator install or a road recon, where we need engineers and we need assistance as a township to provide some guidance on these projects from a tendering perspective, from a specifications perspective. If that's council's wish that funding comes from operating, I guess we need to, there would need to be some internal discussions with the township on where that funding comes from, which department, what area of the budget, because as council is aware as well too, is the greening and infrastructure, greening infrastructure and climate action is not as well. It's not a a recreation and community services item only, right? It's a planning issue. It's an infrastructure services issue. It's a corporate issue. If that's council's wish, we can look at where we fund that from for 2022.
Okay, I'd like to see that happen. I know, I'm not sure if it was last year or the year before that there was some trying to, get some staffing into the infrastructure fund, and I really push back on that, because people can understand that, okay, this is extra above and beyond what we're paying for taxes, and it's going specifically to these projects, which I support. So yes, I can live with that. Also, I guess anything that I kind of feel like the $10,000 to the Elmira Nature Reserve might be on the little cheap side for a project that large and that significant. And I imagine the amount of trees that could get planted there would offset a whole lot of carbon in the township. Any leftovers from, say, the solar panel, if you're saying it's 30 or 35, can we put that into that project and move that along? Because that will be significant for the township.
Yeah, through you, Mayor Sean. So I think maybe what I'm hearing is, with regards to Heidelberg Solar, we can reevaluate that project. We can look at some other locations as well too, and we'll try and have a better picture for council when we bring forward the budget in January. And if we don't at that point as well too, we can earmark some funds, and if we need to come back with a report in 2022 for some sort of solar project, we can bring that forward. As for the Elmira Nature Reserve, this would be new funding for the Elmira Nature Reserve. Just discussing with staff today budget for 2022 based on donations. We will be including that in our capital budget, just so that council is aware of the scale of the project. However, it is funded primarily from donations, but I think we're sitting in the range of $40,000 to $45,000 for the nature reserve in 2022. So we can discuss with staff and Roberts and Hvac in that group and see if there is a need for some additional funding, and then we can propose that possibly an increase there in the budget for 2022.
Okay, thank you, Thomas.
Councillor McMillan.
Thank you, Mayor Shantz, through you. With respect to the consultation fees, I kind of had a thought of going the other way. We had a presentation, I can't remember how long ago it was, from Bruce Taylor from Enviro Stewards, and he was talking about the water holding tank on the roof of their building, and he also outlined some different projects that his engineering firm had gone through and highlighted areas where businesses could create efficiencies and environmental improvements and improve their environmental footprint, and at the same time reduce their costs and create efficiencies. And I was thinking at the time, it'd be wonderful if we had some money to actually have them look at the township operations and see where we could maximize our spending. And I was wondering if, the $50,000 on this solar project might be money that would be better spent with a proposal to Enviro Stewards to look at our entire township operations and see where the best bang for buck is for us, both from a payback standpoint and from an environmental standpoint. I was really excited that night that they presented, and I thought it would be great to have them come in and look at our operations the way that they do with their clients.
Mr. Vanderhoff.
Through you, Mayor Shantz. So staff actually met with the folks at Enviro Stewards in, I believe it was 2020. I'm not sure when in 2020, but they did provide us a presentation for their services, and we did have them through the Woolwich Memorial Center at that time as well too. Maybe should have had them through another building, being that the WMC is a bit of a beast in its own, and being that it is only 11 years old, there are a number of efficiencies in this building with regards to reclaiming heat and heating the pool and that sort of thing. But I think staff are kind of on that same page as you, Councillor McMillan. We would love to, retain someone like Enviro Stewards to do an assessment of the administration building or Breslau Community Center and have a look to see what we can do. We're still working through the capital budget process at this time. So again, I would put it back onto council, and is the direction for staff to find some funds for this consulting work from elsewhere in the budget, whether it be, I'm not sure if it could be from capital or operating, but yeah.
Go ahead, Scott.
Do we have an idea of what it would cost to have Enviro Stewards look at the administration building and see what would be the best return on investment?
Through you, Mayor Shantz. So I was just scanning through my emails. I can't find anything at the moment, Councillor McMillan, but I can definitely again gather some more information and provide it at a later date or bring it forward as a part of 2022.
If it was the will of the rest of council, I would certainly like to see what that cost would look like to have Enviro Stewards look at the admin building and provide a report. And I think if some of that $50,000 for the solar project in Heidelberg could go instead towards that would certainly be something that I would support. I understand and agree with Councillor Merlehan's rationale for having just stuff purchased with that greening infrastructure, but I think a company with a proven track record like Enviro Stewards rather than putting money into a solar project in Heidelberg. I think that could be money that would be well spent looking at our admin building.
Before I ask council to comment on that, could you just clarify, because you've got $20,000 for environmental consulting. Is that something different, or is that the same thing that Councillor McMillan's talking about?
Through you, Mayor Chance. So that is what Councillor McMillan is referring to. Yeah, those funds.
So if we didn't do the Heidelberg project, there'd be $50,000 for something else, because we've already got a budget there for environmental consulting. Is that correct?
Yes, correct. So I guess what we could look at is, if council is supportive of us spending some of this on consulting as a whole, we could earmark that $50,000 for a project that's proposed by Enviro Stewards, for example.
So the 20,000 would be consulting, and then there'd be 50,000 for another project that would be identified by Enviro Stewards. Is that what you're saying? I'm just want to make sure I understand what you're saying.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Councillor McMillan, did you want to just comment on that piece, and then I'm going to go to Councillor Shantz?
Yeah, I was actually speaking of the $50,000 for the Heidelberg project, like finding out if that's the best spot to put the money. But if there's already $20,000 and we feel like that is enough to have Enviro Stewards through the admin building, I think that it also might make sense to hold on to that $50,000 to see what the results of that audit would be. And maybe, there is a project that's $50,000, but if there's a project that's $100,000, maybe the $50,000 becomes, the first payment of that $100,000 project. But yeah, I think we're not going to know until we find out more. And I think that I would certainly like to hear more from staff and come back in a future date after exploring some of those different options.
Okay, Councillor Shantz.
Yeah, thank you. Just some comments. That's kind of why I brought up the Heidelberg one. I was questioning that $50,000 being spent there for that project. And I guess I would like to see some consultation as well, because we're kind of going at it blindly by the sounds of it, and it'd be nice to have some direction. And I think that at the end of the day, that could probably save us money and pay for the consultation. So I don't have a problem pulling it out of the greening end of it and moving forward the way we're talking.
Thank you. Councillor Reddenkop, did I see your hand or no? No, not right now. Councillor Martin, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I had a question, and that is, why are we putting a lot of money in the what do we call it? The nature reserve. Every time we've heard a presentation, this is supposed to be a community-driven thing. And they've right out said, we're not asking for funds. They didn't need any. It's all donations. There's a lot of businesses in town that would contribute. A lot of individuals should be able to, if we start putting a lot of money and all of a sudden it's just going to be our project and the rest of the people won't be involved. So I would ease off on that unless there's a real need.
Okay, thank you. I do have Councillor Merlehan, you want to weigh in on that one, and then I'll ask my question.
I'm not going to bother acknowledging that last comment, but through you, Mayor Shantz, it's a bit of a slippery slope of, it's just easier to take the money out of this greening fund to support consulting and things like that. I get that, the money has to come from somewhere, but that's not what we told the public the money was going to be used for. Just like the infrastructure, we told them it wasn't going to pay for staff. It wasn't going to be that. It was going to go into projects. So I'm just going back to what I've been telling the public, and this is what we said we wouldn't do, and it said what I wouldn't do. So I can't support taking money out of here when it comes into staff. It has to go into projects. If we have to take it out of operating budget, so be it. I'm fine with that. We can find the money elsewhere to do that, but I really request that we stick to the principles of how the fund was started, and because we're not even that many years in, and we're already trying to steal from the piggy bank to pay for staff when it's for projects. So I'm vehemently opposed to taking the money from that fund, but do support taking the money from operating or somewhere else that isn't from the fund.
Just to be clear, this isn't for staff. This is for a consultant to provide some guidance where we don't have it. So I think it's important to do that hire, whether the money comes from this fund or from operating. I'm okay with it coming from operating as well. My question is regarding the electric vehicle or the hybrid vehicle. And I think I might have missed something in the discussion, but is this an extra vehicle, or is that 50,000 the surcharge to go hybrid? I hope it's not.
Through your Mayor-Shawn. So the hybrid purchase is, I think it's probably going to come in closer to $45,000 for the pickup truck that's proposed total, and it is a replacement. So those funds are budgeted for already.
So those funds should be coming from capital then. Like we have a capital plan, right, to replace vehicles.
Yeah.
And so if this is a regular replacement, I could support a surcharge to go a hybrid over a regular vehicle if that's what it was. But if that's just a regular replacement, I don't think the whole cost should come out of the greening fund. That's where I think we're sort of getting outside the purpose of the greening fund.
Apologies if there's if I've made it a tad confusing. The hybrid vehicle, is listed under the heading of 2022 proposed other corporate capital projects. So that is not coming from the Climate Action Greening Infrastructure Reserve Fund. That's just other projects that the township is, planning for 2022 that are going to have a positive impact.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor McMillan?
Yeah, I got to push back on a little bit that hiring a consultant would be like stealing from the pot. I think the first year that we had the greening infrastructure levy, it was just for trees. And I think that the money that is collected from that levy increase, I think, is still clearly going towards planting trees. The second year of the greening infrastructure levy, I think it was changed. The name of it was changed to the, greening and climate levy. And I think that we haven't spent anything yet or collected this revenue yet. So if we were to, say that a portion of this levy is for carbon emission reduction or carbon capture, we are not betraying the claim that we made for that first infrastructure levy increase, that it was going to be specifically for trees. That being said, if Councillor Merlehan were to want to have another increase on the general levy, that a consultation with Enviro Stewards could go towards, and we could leave all of the climate action levy to actual projects, I would also support that. But I think that we as council should agree to the levy increase for that and not ask that it come out of the money that is for the regular staff operations. So I would certainly support it both ways. If we wanted to have the consultation have a general levy increase and leave this all for direct projects, I could support that as well.
Okay, I don't think we need to actually come to a consensus here tonight. It can go back. Thomas can take it back and work in the budget process with it. He's heard our discussion. Mr. Brenneman, did you want to weigh in?
Yeah, just a couple of things. One, to reiterate and thank council for the discussion and the feedback this evening, because when we discussed at senior management, the timing of bringing this forward during budget or now, you can see the reason we wanted to bring it forward now. We also wanted to bring it forward now because while Thomas and the team in Recreation and Community Services have done yeoman's work without, as it's already been acknowledged, without expertise in-house in the area of sustainability, climate change, etc. Best efforts were made to put together some projects that we wanted to get council feedback on. And certainly, pardon me, we've done that this evening. So we've accomplished the purpose, which was to get all of council's feedback on what you liked, what you didn't like, what you'd like to see changed, what you would like to see reevaluated, etc. So I think we've achieved that. And as Thomas noted, we can go back and take a look and based on the comments, reevaluate things. One thing I would note, though, that we did discuss, because we expected that it may come up, is the whole debate that you're having around the use of someone like enviro stewards or consultants. And we did appreciate that there had been that previous debate regarding use of dollars for staffing as part of the infrastructure reserve fund. But I think just for council's clarification, one thing we need to point out, and I think Thomas was trying to touch upon this earlier, is that infrastructure reserve fund dollars do go to pay for consultants. As you've seen, you get reports regarding engineering consultants to do road projects, bridge projects. Engineering consultants, not staffing, is used, dollars are used from the infrastructure reserve fund. So appreciate the debate council's been having between staff and consultants. But I think Thomas was trying to emphasize that, and I thought it was an important clarification to provide, is that we definitely use consultants, engineering consultants for roads, bridge, reconstruction projects, etc. And so we saw this similar, and that's why staff brought forward the discussion that they did. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Monahan.
Yeah, thank you. Through you. Can we, if you want to call the consultants and say it's consistent, fine, but we need to take the 7,500 that specifically says shared staff resource between 4 townships. Those kind of costs, I don't want to see them in these special levies. That's it.
Yeah,
through you,
go
Madam
ahead.
Mayor. Yeah, and that's why I wanted to get the clarification. Are we talking about consultants or staffing? And just to, it's still an active conversation. So what happened, full transparency for council, Sustainable Waterloo Region approached the 4 townships about the fact that there could be access to funding to fund a shared position between the 4 townships. I think we've gone on the high side. We're not sure it will be that much. It started out as potentially a 7 or 8 month, I think, contract position, and it was going to cost around, I think, $3,000 per township. But one of the things we are still actively looking at is whether we can get approval on that grant. And obviously there would be further information coming forward to council. But further to what Thomas reiterated earlier, the 4 townships, none of us have in-house expertise, and we're looking at how best to try and accomplish work plans for all of our respective organizations to meet the very aggressive and ambitious 80 by 50 and 50 by 30 plan that the region and area municipalities have approved. So we appreciate that we may have to find alternative sources for that revenue, but there will be a further report coming forward to council on that once we have some more definitive discussions amongst Sustainable Waterloo Region and the 4 townships.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, thanks. Thanks, Mr. Vanderhoff, for your presentation tonight and for your work on this. And I trust you've got enough information to go back and work at budget for us.
Yeah, we appreciate the conversation and the input. Thanks, Council.
Thank you. Okay, other business. I do actually have a couple reports from regional. We had a long meeting today. A good portion of it was spent on the ROP review, and we had a number of delegations from developers and climate action people. And so it went back to staff to do a land needs assessment and to work out some more options for us to look at. I also clarified with staff about the Elmira bypass EA that was supposed to start this fall. And I was told again that it would start in the first quarter of 2022. It was delayed because of some staff constraints that they had there. And the other thing I brought forward was a letter from Chartwell asking for a crosswalk by Chartwell to have some better markings and signals and so on, so that people coming over the hill know what's up ahead, and just to give our seniors a little more safety as they cross there. So hopefully I'm going to hear back on that. I was at Huron Digital today. Minister Fideli was there announcing a $500,000 grant to them to work towards an expansion. It's really fascinating. It's I don't know if you've ever had the chance to visit, but they I'm a bit of a science geek, so I'll just take a minute. But they take slides from a microscope slide, and they digitize it and put it up on a screen, and then they can use those pictures to actually search databases and find other similar cancer cells or whatever it might be, and do some comparators. And it's fascinating work. One of our high tech businesses here in the township. And the other thing I wanted to mention is we voted to get an implementation plan for a living wage. The living wage for this area is $17.20, and so the region is going to look at what an implementation plan would look like for the region to do that. And it's based on the excuse me, the dollars per hour that are required to meet basic needs after tax deductions. The City of Waterloo, the City of Cambridge, and the City of Kitchener have all implemented, they're in various stages of implementing a living wage in their municipalities, and North Dumfries is also looking at that. Excuse me. So that might be something for us to consider here as well. Any other council reports? Councillor Merlihan.
Thank you, Mayor Shantz, through you. I just wanted to expand on the Chartwell crossing walk. I am part of the reconstruction team for the region for the Church Street West reconstruction of that road. And I identified a crosswalk like early on in the process, and the region team came back and said, no way are you getting any improvements for a crosswalk on Snyder and Church Street. So there's not going to be any crosswalk on Church Street East still, because they have said no on that reconstruction for getting to Bollander Park. And as far as a crossing walk there, which it is, I use that that intersection several times a day at the busiest points, and it really does need a crosswalk, but the region says no. So please, whatever it takes, if you can push that up the regional whatever to get some action on crosswalks, but the region certainly has an affinity to not putting crosswalks in Elmira.
Okay, we'll keep moving ahead on that. The letter came from a resident who has family at Chartwell, and it also came from Chartwell as well. So we'll see where we go on that. Anything else, council? Okay, outstanding activity list. There's no notice of motion. We need a motion that the following bylaws in the hands of the clerk be read a first, second, third time and finally passed, and that they be numbered as bylaw number 62-2021 to 63-2021, and that they be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with a corporate seal. And those were from last week. I heard it pronounced Delian or Delian Place amendment, and also confirming all actions and proceedings of council November 9th. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Shantz. Second by Councillor McMillan. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And that brings us to the end of our agenda. So a motion that the meeting adjourns to meet again in regular session on Tuesday, November 30th, 2021. Moved by Councillor McMillan, seconded by Councillor Redekop. All those in favor? And that is carried. So thank you to council and to all who participated or tuned into the meeting tonight on our YouTube live stream. Council, please stay connected until Francis confirms that the live stream has stopped. And good night, everyone.